Ahoy, sailors. Welcome back to the Bruise News with the captain. How's everyone doing today? It's pretty good. Been a good day, a little bit rainy here. It's actually like severe thunderstorms been running through, so it's been a little crazy. It's been a crazy day. Just one of those days, Just how it goes sometimes. I got in a funny Facebook argument today with someone, and it was about pro wrestling versus, I guess we'll say, like real life, like pro wrestling versus real life. And it's an argument, well, not I guess an argument, but a discussion, well, an argument that I've had with people in the past about it. And a lot of people are like, how do you like pro wrestling? It's so gay, it's so fake, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know if you realize this, not you specifically, but just the people of the world that don't watch pro wrestling. But do you watch sports movies? Well, I guess sports movies too. But do you watch action movies or movies at all, or TV shows, or pretty much anything on TV? Because I would say most of the stuff that you're watching on TV is pretty fake. And if you're talking about the athletic ability of some of these pro wrestlers, it's about as real as you get, other than a contact sport itself. Pro wrestling, they throw each other everywhere. They go through tables, they kick each other, they punch each other in the face. They're constantly getting injured from how hard they're working because their schedules are so insane. So I don't understand why people have it out so bad for pro wrestling, or saying it's gay. Like, who cares about the getup? You ever been to the beach? Like, who cares? Like, it's the most formal attire for somebody to be fighting somebody else. Like when you watch a UFC fight, for instance, which is pretty much the complete opposite of gay, if you ask me. And I am saying it in that aspect. It's pretty much the complete opposite, where two people are literally just beating the shit out of each other. Look at what they're wearing. GSP would constantly wear, tight shorts. Anderson Silva would wear extremely tight shorts, but it's not gay when they're beating the crap out of each other. But when it's pro wrestling and there's some theatrics involved, it's immediately gay, and it just doesn't make any sense. Pro wrestling is awesome for many reasons. First of all, it's like a man soap opera, I guess you'd say, but it's got a storyline, and there's story arcs to it. And pro wrestling has really been continuing these storylines for 30, 40 years, not necessarily on TV. I think it's only been on TV for 30 years consistently, with programming that people can watch, at the hand of their converter. But for the most part, it's been available for that long, and it's consistently stayed the top of the networking in terms of people watching it on Mondays and Thursdays. There's even wars involved between WCW and WWE involving, the watchings of what was happening. So I think you have to take away from the discredit and look at what you're looking at as a whole. Like, pro wrestling isn't gay, and the storylines are awesome, and it's great to look at something that kind of takes you away. That's the whole point of us watching these things, is to see a superhero. And when you watch, not necessarily a superhero, but somebody that you can look up to. And when you look at these pro wrestlers and their ability to speak on the microphone, and their ability to wrestle each other and beat the crap out of each other and jump and do such athletically crazy feats, it's insane when you put it all together. And I think that people need to stop taking such a critical eye at things like pro wrestling, because it's about as real as you get when it comes to something in terms of a theater. Like, if you're watching something like a TV show or something like that, it's more real than Survivor, it's more real than Game of Thrones, it's more real than The Walking Dead, it's more real than a lot of stuff that you're watching. There's even setups in pro sports, and just as much as there is in pro wrestling, where they have things staged beforehand, there's still a lot of story and a lot of change that can happen in a moment's notice. So I'm just saying, give pro wrestling the credit that it's due. It's brought so many happy moments, and it's so awesome in so many ways. So if you're not a fan of pro wrestling, I'm not saying to start. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. I'm just saying, don't be so critical of it. You don't have to hate it so much. These people who do this are entertaining millions of people, and it makes them happy. So who are we to take away the happiness of those people? When you like what you like, and I like what I like, and they like what they like. Let's just keep it that way, right? Speaking of pro wrestling, before we talk about the MMA stuff, Cain Velasquez, the former UFC heavyweight champion, he made his pro wrestling. He made his pro wrestling debut 2 days ago. He came out in a luchador mask. It was awesome. He was doing crazy stuff, like he was doing head scissor hurricane ranas, and he was jumping off the ropes and landing stuff. It was absolutely crazy. And if you get the chance to go check it out, you can just type in Cain Velasquez pro wrestling debut, and it's absolutely crazy how well he does. They only have I think it's like a 2 or 3 minute clip. I didn't see the whole match. I just saw some of the highlights of the stuff that he did. But he was involved with Cody Rhodes and stuff like that, and another guy who's absolutely fantastic. And he did just so good, and I'm so proud and so happy for the guy that, because he's had a lot of bad injuries, and MMA can be real bad on your body. And hopefully someday we can see him into into a real pro wrestling organization like the WWE or AEW or something that's more mainstream than just performing, in Mexico and or a luchador mask. I'd love to see him be able to do that stuff because he was a true fighter. I would love to see him come and take on Brock Lesnar, who's a guy he's actually beaten in the octagon, first of all, and a guy who's continuously in pro wrestling. He seems like one of the perfect candidates to pull over to WWE and be able to give him that opportunity and just show the world that he's able to do that sort of thing, because again, it's pretty awesome. Moving on, Cyborg has decided not to re-sign with the UFC, which is interesting after Dana had formally apologized to her, I guess you'd say. He apologized to her at one of the press conferences after she had made a stink about it. Now, she's not signed with the UFC, and her reasoning behind it was actually really good, in my opinion. So, she had complained before that Dana was sort of had it out for her, and then she reworded what she had said before. It's not that Dana White had it out for her, it's just that Dana seemed like a dark man. Like, he had a lot of negativity behind everything that he had to do, and I don't know if that's necessary. And this isn't the first time that somebody said this, by the way, about Dana White. It's just that he doesn't seem like a guy who's necessarily in love with the job that he's doing. It has to be stressful being Dana White and putting all that pressure on him having to find new fighters, him having to put on the best cards, make the money, do all that stuff, make sure the endorsements are going. He probably has no time to even have a personal life at all, but he's probably loaded all at the same time. So, I bet the trade-off is pretty good. Regardless of that, he just didn't seem like a guy in Cyborg's mind that really wanted to be able to take care of these fighters the way that they were. That being said, I think that what she's trying to say is that Dana wasn't looking out for Cyborg in particular, which I can understand Dana's side of that by saying that, he has hundreds of fighters to take care of and look after, and it's obviously more important to take care of the fighters that are bringing in the big pay-per-view buys, whereas Cyborg, not that female fighting is not as good, because female fighters don't bring in the pay-per-view buys as much as the men do, but it's that they're not able to do what the guys do. Like a Conor McGregor pulls in probably 10, 15 times more pay-per-view buys than if you headlined a card with Cyborg. Now, that's way up here when you're talking about Conor, who everybody wants to see, and then you're talking about Cyborg, who people want to see, but it's just not as... People don't want to see that as much as they'd rather see Conor. So the comparison isn't that great, but you should understand what I'm saying. So on top of that, she apparently, when she wanted to re-sign, she had asked for the title rematch immediately, and Dana wasn't interested in giving her the rematch immediately. He wanted to give her a 6-fight contract, and she was already having an issue finding females in her division to fight. And we're talking about not females, just anybody to fight. She was talking about top tier females in her 145-pound division to be able to fight. So with that being added to it, her not re-signing with the UFC, she's going to another organization more than likely, and probably will try to find something that has a bit deeper competition in terms of being able to fight more often, and she can sign a smaller contract and still make it. I don't think this is Cyborg ducking out of there. She's talked about wanting the title rematch back for a long time, so I don't think this has anything to do with her not wanting to fight Nunes. I don't think this has anything really to do with Dana White either. I think that this just has to do with from her business perspective what's best for her, because she's sponsored by New Era baseball caps, and she has sponsors, and she's going to be able to go and fight wherever, and she's going to be a big deal wherever she goes because she's Cyborg, and a lot of that comes with a lot of hate too. So I think that this was a good decision for her. Her reasoning was good, and maybe we'll see her back at some point in the future, but she is sort of on the decline in terms of age. Lastly, we have Eddie Alvarez. There's a lot of shit talking happening. Like, it was actually crazy. Like, Colby Covington was going off on people. Like, Ben Askren was like, I'm so sorry for losing, guys. I'm so sorry for losing because now you guys have to see Marty and Colby duking it out. And he's talking about Usman. He's talking about Usman and Colby Covington talking shit. And I don't know if anybody watched their thing where they were beefing. It was just horrible. Like, they were talking about, like, it was pretty much like my dad can beat up your dad, like that level of bad shit talking. It was pretty bad, and Colby's just like super insulting. Like, he doesn't understand shit talking has to be like, it has to be funny. Like, you have to bring the person down without making it sound so serious so people laugh, because that's the whole point. Is like, when you're insulting someone, you don't want to actually insult them. You want them to feel insulted, and you want people to laugh at what that person is saying. That's, in my opinion, what you want out of an insult. Not that I go around insulting people, but I'm saying that if I'm making a joke towards a person, I'm not trying to make it real. I'm trying to make it funny so that everybody laughs. And Colby is not good at doing that. Neither is Usman, to be honest. Colby's not good at that. He said, "Oh, I'm breaking every record in the book, but at least I didn't get knocked out in 5 seconds. You'll always hold that record." I mean, it's like, shit happens, like that shit happens. Ben Askren's awesome, so whatever. Okay, he was also talking shit about John Jones, because John Jones is like, Robbie Lawler just let the world down, which I think is terrible, because Robbie Lawler is a savage. He's still a savage nonetheless, and he's a great fighter, and it's just one of those things where Robbie's been fighting for so long that his body is probably just starting to reject some of the training that he's being able to put in. His body's not working as fast. That this happens. We've seen this with lots of people, like BJ Penn. If you stuck BJ Penn if you took BJ Penn in his prime and you stuck him into the lightweight division right now, do you not think that BJ Penn would be dominating the lightweights? I absolutely 100% agree that he would throw up a great fight against Tony, a great fight against Conor, a great fight against Cerrone, a great fight against Khabib. All of those guys. BJ Penn had legendary takedown defense until he fought a guy who felt like twice his size and was the most insane takedown artist. So I would love to have seen a BJ Penn in his prime versus a Khabib. But again, that's just hearsay at this point. Anyways, Colby went on to say that he put on the best striking performance of all time. And I'm like, dude, you threw 300 strikes and you landed... or was it? I think he might have landed 500 and threw 600, so it was like an insane percentage. But at the same time, it's not like he outstruck Robbie in the typical sense. Like, when you think of somebody outstriking somebody else, it's like either you landed the knockout in the first round after landing 40, 50 insane combos and being able to shut someone's light out and shut all the lights off. When you're connecting, it's like when you're watching a boxing match, holy smokes! When you're watching this stuff, you can clearly see when a striker is much better than another person, because every single time that one striker tries to engage, the other one, who's amazing, stops everything that's happening with whatever they're doing. Now, Colby did do very well against Robbie, but it was because he was mixing everything up. So he wasn't standing in the pocket and throwing with Robbie Lawler at all. In fact, he was throwing pretty much everything in the kitchen sink and then shooting for a takedown. And then when he couldn't get the takedown, he would stand up, throw everything. So I mean, you're not necessarily outstriking someone, but you are definitely outpacing them, and that worked wonderfully against Robbie Lawler. You cannot take anything away from Colby Covington at all in terms of his ability to beat Robbie Lawler down. He definitely did that. He outpaced him, he beat him down, and by all standards, he did strike him more often, but you didn't beat him in the striking department. If it was you guys standing up and there was multiple exchanges where you were standing up and you won every single one of those, it would be a different story. But it wasn't like that at all. There was a lot of different level switches and all that stuff happening. So you can make the argument nonetheless on both sides. I just said nonetheless like 3 times in the last like 5 minutes. Anyways, you can make the argument. Colby talked some shit about John Jones, but I mean, a lot of people have different things to say about John Jones. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Like now he's got like some rape charges against him. But I mean, I heard via the internet, which is not too reliable of a source, but I mean, it's pretty reliable because, the news broke that he had been charged with assault in the first place. Was it assault? I think it's assault on a stripper, or like sexual assault on a stripper. I forget exactly. But I heard that it's all bullshit and that it's just people just trying to take advantage of John Jones. Now I know we've heard that story before, but I feel like John Jones would have come out and just sort of taken it at this point because like he's done worse. I mean, like beating up a stripper is not good. Like you should never hit a girl. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not condoning hitting females whatsoever. I'm just saying that he's done worse to girls before. So like, just take it with a grain of salt. I personally don't think that it happened. I think it's just somebody trying to take advantage of John Jones, but it's whatever. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for watching the video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that we can get some new likes, some shares, some subscribes. I hope that you guys can put up with my my bad language, my bad talking skills, and the lack of editing, because this was a good video up until my couple of kerfuffles. So I don't want to dive in and try to edit this at all. I'm just going to put it out there like I usually do for now. I had a friend who recently just told me that he could help me with editing. So I think that I will be checking that out shortly and seeing what that is about. I don't know if it's going to be me sending these videos to him or me just doing, or him telling me what to do or showing me what to do or use specific programs, but we'll see how that goes, because when I tried editing myself, it went horribly and I don't want it to go horribly again. But again, I'm still trying. Once again, thanks everyone, and make sure that you have a great day.